Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Everywhere you go, your manners are with you, and they leave their mark. They help you feel sure of yourself, too, and they make an impression on people.
Demonstrators wreaked havoc in Washington, D.C. and destroyed storefront windows.
It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation.
Make political commitments to curb population growth.
We didn't simulate this. We didn't practice.
What the hell do they let the reporters in there for?
MK Ultra.
8 million adults are affected by it.
Don't try it.
There will be no outcome that leaves Saddam Hussein in power.
A brand new group called ISIL.
We're speeding up training of ISIL forces.
The one person who wasn't random was the security guard.
America was founded as a constitutional republic.
Kick the incumbents out. Send citizens to Washington.
I will totally obliterate the deep state. We will obliterate the deep state.
Hello and welcome, everyone, to Altered State, Season 4, Episode 2. I'm your host, Brad Zerbo, and with me, as always, the wonderful Zak Paine.
Zak Paine, mother effers. So the reason I laugh is because every time with that intro, it's like I just want to come in and be like, yes, rule. I'm just gonna shred. And Brad comes in, he's like, hello, everyone. Okay. It's like it's so quiet every single time. It's like measured and careful, and it's like I just want to come in and just like tear the room apart because of that guitar riff.
Greetings and salutations, my good.
It's so funny.
I love it. A pretty eventful day today. A little bit of fake news, as always.
Oh, always with fake news.
Never a dull moment. I think maybe I would start with that. You saw the Wall Street Journal today, right? Is trying to push. This is the dumpster fire that the Wall Street Journal has become.
Anything they can do to deep six the peace deal. Anything.
Now, remind me, I remember liking the Wall Street Journal, even from a right, like I've always been right wing. I don't remember them being such a rag. Is this a part of my imagination? Because I'm starting to doubt my memory at this point because they're so awful for such a long time now.
I think that for a period of time, they had the illusion of being like the sort of center-right counterbalance to the rest of the mainstream media. But that illusion was shattered many years ago. So I don't know when you think that you were seeing them. But no, for quite some time, they have been like fully pushed into the realm of fake news and going against anything that might be in the interest of peace or truth.
Yeah, and it's funny, a lot of the things that we support and we're like, hey, this is a great publication, wind up being kind of just unbiased down the middle of reporting because everything is so pushed to the left that that's considered right wing nowadays. And yeah, before Trump came on the scene, I do remember liking the Wall Street Journal. In my peripheral, I feel like I remember liking them in the beginnings, but now that line's starting to get blurred. Either way, they are fully deep state controlled at this point, in my opinion. They put U.S. lifts key restriction on Ukraine's use of European long-range missiles. This is the headline I saw when I first woke up this morning. I said, man, that's weird. Why would they do that? And not that the U.S. has been outwardly anti-Ukraine. Trump has been totally being nice to both sides, which has angered everyone on all sides because people always definitively want Trump to take a side. But I was like, that's way out of character. So I looked into it and there's no official lifting of a sanction. So this is an assumption they came to that they're printing as if it's a definite in writing thing. What happened was that Ukraine used a UK supplied Storm Shadow cruise missile today to hit a target inside Russia. So they were using the fact that they use US intel to guide these. This says somewhere around here, as the US lifted some sanctions. That at one point in this article, they actually say that they still can't use Tomahawk missiles, US made Tomahawk missiles, because obviously we're not sanctioning them to do anything of this matter. Trump came out and said, that's something else, but he had come out straight up and was like, no, the Wall Street Journal story on the USA's approval of Ukraine, you're allowed to use long-range missiles deep into Russia is fake news. U.S. had nothing to do with those missiles. The strike was yesterday that occurred, wherever they may come from or what Ukraine does with them. So again, these were UK missiles, Storm Shadow missiles. And there's a huge difference between the Storm Shadow missile from the UK and the US Tomahawk. Storm Shadow can travel around 180 miles. The US Tomahawk can travel up to 1,500 miles. So you could do massively more amount of damage with Tomahawks.
Far superior.
And again, I'm pretty sure there will be hell to pay if they start using those. So,
well, and there may even be hell to pay with this. I mean, if they used U.S. intelligence to send these missiles into Russia without the approval of the United States, then that may be a fast track to making sure that we're not giving them that type of intelligence anymore.
Yeah, 100%. It's not going to look good. And he had just talked to Zelensky the other day. He was supposed to talk to Putin, but he didn't. He's meeting with Xi either, was it like tomorrow or something like that? Sometime this week, he's meeting with Xi. There's been a lot of talk about, Putin, Xi, Trump, potential take down the New World Order alliance, which has been increasingly seeming likely over these last couple of years. That's an early Q post talking about that potentiality. And it's interesting because one way or the other, if you were to go by this headline, which was all over X today, you say, well, that's weird. I thought Trump was supposed to be in to just help Putin. What he approved all of a sudden used to bomb some of their facilities. And it's being pushed by the same people who push those narratives. So they're all over the map right now with their fake news.
Was there also like a large panicking contingent on X that was saying, oh, there he goes, Trump's doing it, we're going to World War III?
I don't know how large, but I saw those comments. Absolutely. And it's funny. I assume those comments, a lot of them are paid people. Right. Whatever narrative they want to push, there are going to be people in the comments who are pushing it that you've never seen before.
There was another such attack that was happening yesterday. Did you happen to see President Trump's comments about purchasing Argentinian beef?
Oh yeah. He put sanctions on them, right? Or he?
Well, no. He
sanctions, okay. Tariffs on them?
No. Well, he's put tariffs on a bunch of other beef. Okay. Yeah. And so actually, let me see if I can.
Yeah. He announced tariffs on imported beef from Argentina today.
Okay. All right. Well, even still, we're going to be purchasing Argentinian beef. Let me show you this. So a lot of people were like, no Argentinian beef. We need U.S. beef, and we can't be buying meat or any animals from anybody else in the world because that's not America first. And President Trump was like, listen, Argentina is a ally of ours. And if we can help them, we're going to help them. And we bring this beef here. It's going to help our ranchers because there's a backlog. We have all of these ranches, first of all, that have closed down because they can't get the beef processed fast enough. The reason for that is because there's a shortage of USDA slaughterhouses in the United States. That was done on purpose to constrict supply and put it into the hands of large producers. All right. There's like 4 big beef producers in the United States. And what they want to do is they want to put out of business all of the small ranches, all of the family farms. And this was done years ago. Okay. Set into motion a long time ago. And obviously we need to address that. That's one problem. the price of beef and other meats like chicken, pork, and stuff. I mean, all of that is up because during the Biden administration, they slaughtered thousands upon thousands of animals. Same with eggs. Remember the whole thing with eggs? They got rid of all those chickens, got rid of the eggs. You know, the price of eggs go up. So they've been importing beef, and pull up the screen that I have that I shared right there. We import all kinds of beef from all around the world because we can't get the beef here in the United States to slaughter quick enough. And that's bad because, you know, we have lack of a supply, but also it's bad for the farmers because they have to continue feeding an animal after they're ready to go to slaughter. And then they're not making money on them. They're just spending money on them. And then it's also depressing the prices of calves here in the United States because people don't need to buy them. So, but farmers still need to sell them. So then they sell them at a significant loss, and everybody loses except for the countries where we're buying beef. And then also the big factory farms, which again, there's only like 4 producers. But if you take a look at this post right here, this is from the USDA. This is imported meat passed for entry into the US by country. So I don't know if this is head of cattle or if this is like number of pounds or thousands of pounds or something like that. But you can see like we're already buying a small amount of beef from Argentina. Okay. Like let's say, you know, this number 29,741 year to date in 2025 from Australia. And nobody's bitching about Australian beef, but we've bought like significantly more Australian beef, like 20 times as much Australian beef, 451,652. And then again from Brazil, 261,813. Canada, 564,258. So my point here is that we are already importing beef, all right, because we have a need that needs to be met. We don't have the infrastructure. We have offshored the production of beef from the United States in the same way we did with the auto industry, in the same way we did with a whole bunch of other industries. So there are multiple layers to this problem that need to be solved. And rather than looking at this problem honestly and saying, okay, so President Trump says we're going to buy Argentinian beef. We are already buying beef from other countries. If we buy it from Argentina, somebody who we want to make sure that their government doesn't collapse, and then we don't buy it from other countries, we are propping up an ally, and you've got all of these other nations who are clearly selling a lot of beef. I mean, they're not going to go broke because they can't sell us beef any longer. So we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And on top of that, Secretary Rollins came out earlier today, and she has announced that the U.S. government is in the process of fixing the other problems that I was talking about. And of course, all the people who were like, this is not America first. President Trump has turned on us, and this is not what I voted for, and I no longer support President Trump. But here is Secretary Rollins talking about the other issues that I mentioned, like namely production.
What happened to beef prices? How do we bring them down?
We have had a massive run on beef over the last decade. We've had almost 17% of our producers close, which is about our ranchers, which is about 150,000 ranchers have now stopped ranching. It's a whole other show. We need to describe that. But basically, there's been a massive consolidation, which has not been good for our ranching industry. We have, offshored a lot of that to some companies in Brazil and some other internationally. China owns some other companies. There's a really important realignment that has to happen for us to begin to onshore. When we talk about onshoring and reshoring for manufacturing, we need to onshore and reshore for our beef producers, for our ranchers. So the prices are high. The president is very focused on fulfilling his promise of bringing grocery prices down, but he's also very focused, and you'll hear more from us perhaps in the next day or two, on what we are going to do to incentivize, to open up new lands, to make it easier to become a rancher, to build more processing plants around the country so there aren't just a handful in the middle of the country. We've got a pretty big package coming out. I haven't talked about it publicly. This is the first time, but that'll be coming out very, very soon. Again, perhaps this week. And we'll be able to begin to move the onshoring of beef back to America. And of course, as you know, the bigger supply, even aligned with a bigger demand, is going to allow those prices to come down, but also to have a vital industry for these ranchers to be able to survive in, which is what we've got to do.
Okay, so my ultimate point here is that considering it's a multi-layered issue and considering that we have a number of problems to solve, President Trump mentions one particular problem, which, you know, ideally is going to face the one issue of high prices at the supermarket. But there are other problems that are also in the works of being solved, and it just hasn't been announced yet. That's why Brooke Rollins came out and did this interview, letting people know, like, okay, those other things that need to be addressed so that you, the American ranchers, can sell your beef, that has to happen. So another one of the reason, if you're a small rancher and you have a cattle and you need to bring them to a slaughterhouse, there's like only a handful of USDA approved slaughterhouses. And if you don't get the USDA stamp, you're not going to be able to sell it. All right. So like if like up to a certain amount, I guess like individuals can slaughter themselves and then sell to like a certain number of people. But, you know, as soon as you go beyond that, you have to have the USDA stamp. And you've got most of these people, most of these ranchers are in that category. So if we're going to make it possible for those ranchers to survive and get their animals to slaughter, there has to be infrastructure built. And that's not the kind of thing that you can address in a single day. And so, you know, I look at this problem and it's got so many facets to it, but people have latched onto this one facet and they're pretending or perhaps disingenuously arguing that that is the only aspect to the problem. Now, here's the other thing, and I saw this in the chat. You know, I've seen, you know, people claiming to be ranchers. I've seen accounts claiming to be ranchers. These are not people. These are not like, you know, like Jake Smith, Oklahoma rancher. It's like an account with an avatar claiming to be a rancher, giving this argument of, you know, anger and talking about how irate they are and how bad this is and what a betrayal of America this is for President Trump. But then on the other side of the token, I am seeing accounts of real people who are like, okay, you know, in the short term, this is good. And on top of that, it's not only about meat that's coming in from Argentina. It's about the cattle coming into Argentina to be raised by American farmers. Okay. The Argentinian beef is the best quality beef in the world. And like, that's like pretty widely accepted. So, and this won't be the first time that it's been done. You know, it was done in the 1980s. It was done earlier in the 20th century. I believe they brought in like Scottish cattle and like bred them into the American herds, and it increased the genetics and the variety and the quality of our beef. And so if we do that, that'll be good. Now, another thing we could do, bring back country of origin labeling. You know, we're buying a lot of beef, a lot of ground beef and a lot of like processed beef from Mexico and from Brazil. From both of those countries, the standards that they have for production of beef is not the same as it is here in the United States. So you're going to get subpar beef that you get to the United States of America, and then it's sold as American beef because it's being sold by an American company, but there's no label on it that tells you that it's from Mexico or it's from, you know, any place else, basically. And another key aspect of this, another problem that we have is the New World screwworm, which is something, I don't know if we talked about it here or if I talked about it on Baseless Conspiracies with John, but the New World screwworm is this parasitic fly that the United States has almost single-handedly been trying to eradicate from North, Central, and South America for the last 70 years. What we'll do is we will take larvae from New World screwworm. We will genetically engineer them, not like with like CRISPR technology, but basically we raise larvae that is sterile. And then we'll go and drop it into the areas where the New World screwworm exists, like from a plane, like they're like, you know, seeding, like crop dusting or something like that. And then the sterile screwworms fall, they grow into mature flies that are unable to breed. And then they attempt to breed with flies that are able to breed, and then they're unable to have offspring, and then they die off. Okay. And there is New World screwworm that is in South Central America, and then in Mexico, and it's getting closer and closer to the United States. And if it makes its way into the United States, because we bring Mexican cattle into the United States, then it could be devastating and it could completely destroy the cattle industry in the United States altogether. But again, each and every single one of these things are a different problem. And from what I've seen, from my perspective, watching President Trump for the last 10 years, when he is addressing a problem, he's never only addressing one problem. It's like the deep state. They're never trying to bend you over and screw you in the ass in one way. All right. They are trying to screw you in as many different ways as possible. It's just that maybe you only see that one way at the outset. And then there are all of these ancillary effects that come as a result of getting screwed in that one way. And the same thing with President Trump, except that it's not getting screwed. He is helping the United States of America. He addresses one particular thing as part of a multi-pronged plan, which then has the added benefit of doing good things for the entirety of the country. And at the end of the day, not only are we going to bring down prices, are we going to bring quality beef here for our cattle ranchers to raise? Are we going to increase the size of the processing capabilities? Hopefully, they're also going to relax some of those standards. I mean, obviously, we need to have beef that's safe. We need to have meat that's not tainted, right? But I think that the USDA and some of the regulations, like in terms of like how these animals get processed, I think that it is unnecessarily constrictive in terms of not allowing product to get to the market.
Yeah, well, I think you hit on something there very important, that many things that this administration, at the very least, is doing are multifaceted, and there's lots of layers, and a lot of times there are layers that aren't exactly talked about in the public square, proverbial public square. One thing that makes me wonder about this is, are they putting mRNA jabs into their beef? Because there's been a lot of talk that a lot of animals here are getting vaccinated, and this could be part of what they're doing, trying to import them in. And actually, you're right about the Argentinian tariffs. The place I was reading, they were, again, another broad headline that when you start reading it is different. They were actually talking about the Brazilian beef has a 50% tariff and 35% tariff for Canada. And then, but Argentina, they are trying to make a deal to bring in a lot of cattle and beef, which, again, it makes me wonder about the vaccination aspect.
It makes me think about it too. And, you know, I mean, Australia was obviously huge on that stuff. And one of the places that we get a lot of our beef is from Australia. Australia might be like the #1 import. It's either Australia or Brazil. And, you know, one of the reasons we get so much from Australia is because there is no New World screwworm there. It's only from the producers that we're getting it from in Central and South America. But here is a short video on the New World screwworm.
New World screwworms are not new. They historically were in Texas, and we eradicated them down to the Panama Canal. New World screwworms are a concern because they infest living animals, particularly mammals. And
now, here's another thing that people simply have just like completely ignored. It is endemic in the Darien Gap. Okay, the Darien Gap is that strip of land that people from all over the world traipse through the Central American jungle to come to the United States of America illegally. So during the last 4 years, I mean, the chances of bringing the New World screwworm here on the backs of one of those illegal aliens or with animals that they tried to bring with them, off the charts. And if that would have happened, like if we would have had another infestation here, it could have been devastating.
The larvae consume the animal as it's alive, eventually killing it in many cases. The screwworm gets its name because the appearance of the larvae has these hairs that appear as threads on a screw, but also the action of the larvae that appear to drill into that animal's tissue as they're consuming it. They cause damage and then they consume that tissue. We combat the screwworm problem through a number of approaches, including monitoring our animals for infestations of the larvae. We set traps for the adult flies, which allow us to reduce the population of the wild flies. And most importantly, we release sterilized male flies that mate with the wild females. That wild female cannot lay eggs that will hatch. And over time, we reduce that population in an area, ultimately eradicating it. This process continues and repeats as we move that population further and further south, eventually returning it to the quarantine zone in Panama. There are two flies that look very similar. One is the New World screwworm. The second is the secondary screwworm. The secondary screwworm is a species that we have in Texas, and it does not cause this type of damage. The difference involves the stripes on the top and the back of the fly, and it really takes an expert to identify this fly and to tell them apart. But it's very unlikely that anyone will see an adult screwworm fly. You're most likely to identify infestations called myiasis in the animal's wounds. And when you find that, you need to contact a veterinarian immediately.
Yeah, so ivermectin can be used to treat New World screwworm, but it has to be given. You have to identify that your cattle have it. You have to see it in the wound, and then you have to apply it topically and then give an injection as well. But I mean, if you're talking about a massive herd, it may be difficult. And especially if you've got them grazing on, a large area of land, it can become even more difficult.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt, man. And those things get out of control real fast. Right before I left New Jersey, there was a breakout of, I don't know what they're called. There's this bright red, there's like this invasive species of this lantern fly, that maybe they're called. Mm-hmm. And they went out everywhere. It was like, kill these things on sight. I think they come from Asia. Mm-hmm. And I killed a few. Everyone I know was like, yeah, I'm going to kill them. But once they're there, they're there. And by the time I left, they were just freaking everywhere. So I'm seeing here now that they claim that Argentina does not vaccinate its cows for COVID-19. Now, full disclosure, I think like things like foot and mouth disease or stuff like that. All beef everywhere has been just get regular vaccines for something like that for a long time. But as far as like these COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2 mRNA jabs, it says that Argentina is currently not doing it. And I have to suspect, although it'll never be said out loud, that could be a big part of why they're making this deal.
Absolutely. Yes. So the National Cattlemen's Beef Association says that as of late 2025, there are no mRNA vaccines licensed for use in beef cattle in the United States. But obviously, they tend to do beta tests on these things in other nations. And just as we saw the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines be rolled out in other countries first so that they could test its efficacy, they might be willing to do that in cattle in other places as well. Yeah.
It's I saw a lot of people talking about going to local butchers or local farms, and I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but at least taste wise, I gotta say there was a local butcher I used to go to in Middletown that was like, nothing you could ever compare to get from a supermarket.
Oh yeah, if you can get like local grass-fed free range cattle, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. Now with that on, what did you think about the No Kings rally this weekend?
I thought it was a total waste of time. And
what are they doing?
It was remarkably unsuccessful. It lasted exactly as long as they said it would. So
it was empty within like 5 minutes of the cutoff time.
Yeah. If they were going home at 2 p.m., they were filing out at 1:55.
Yeah, that sounds like someone who is getting paid by the hour, if you ask me.
Absolutely does. Yes, it does.
It does not sound like a passion play.
Yeah. So I interviewed this guy yesterday named Kevin Dahlgren. I think I've shown his videos on my show a number of times. And I may have
familiar. Yeah.
Well, he was also shared by Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt today, which was really cool that he was on my show yesterday. And then early this morning, she's sharing his posts. Hold on. Let me pull up. I thought it was so cool because we talked about tagging the White House and having him telling POTUS that he needs to make Kevin his homelessness czar. And then this morning, Caroline Leavitt is sharing him. Okay, go ahead and pull up my screen here. So Kevin lives in Portland. Okay. And so he exposes the problems in Portland, and he goes around the country as well. But the problems with, homelessness, and in Portland, they do what's called harm reduction. They basically give out free drug materials, needles, foils, glass pipes, straws, glass bulbs for smoking crystal meth. They just like hand this stuff out to the homeless. And it's not because they want to keep people safe. It's because the non-governmental organization, 501c3 industry in Portland and Oregon in general is so powerful, and they get so much money that it's probably like the biggest business in Portland. And and Kevin was telling me that a single homeless person probably represents maybe $80,000 to $150,000 in money. Okay, that like these organizations are going to get for providing services to these people. And of course, they employ so many in these areas. And Kevin will go around and he will see if, he can help people get to treatment, if he can, help them get off the street. And people in Portland and people in Los Angeles, they just keep saying, the problem is we don't have enough money to house these people. We don't have enough money to help them. And so we need more money. And over the years, they just keep pumping more and more and more and more money in. And, Kevin always says if money was the problem, we would have solved it a long time ago because the budget have doubled and tripled, et cetera, et cetera. And so he's universally hated by the left because he's messing with their cash, and he is super unpopular. And but meanwhile, he's like the only person in Portland that will go up to somebody and ask them if he can help them get clean. Like nobody else does. All they do is like, hey, do you need food? Do you need a blanket? Can I get you a tent? Can I give you some foils or a bulb so that you can smoke crystal meth? Because they want these people to remain on the streets. If they wanted to help them, they would be helping them get off the streets. So it was really cool to talk to Kevin and then wake up this morning and see that Caroline Levitt was like, everybody needs to follow Kevin Dahlgren. But here's an example, his most recent video that he posted from the streets of Portland.
What city are you from?
Yeah, right there.
You okay?
She's got no arm because I'm sure she lost her arm from doing drugs. You can see there's no bone in there. Like that's just skin hanging off.
Take me. This is death.
On the streets, yeah.
This is death. This is not life.
That's a dead body in the river. Kevin was saying that a couple times a week he'll be walking by and there'll just be a dead body laying in the river. This is a pretty common thing. Either, homeless people will get annoyed with somebody, and so maybe they'll give them a hot shot to get rid of them, kill them and get rid of them, and then they dump them in the river. Or people will just die of a drug overdose and they'll just dump them in the river. And they're pulling people out of the water all the time.
My first job ever in New York, we were doing it right on the West Side Highway, which is right along the Hudson River, and a dead body floated up. And some people went down and looked at it. I didn't really want to. I kind of saw it from up above, and what I could see, it looked like a bloated body. Yeah, I guess it gets bloated while it's in there. Oh yeah, but that always freaked me out a little. I hear that's like a common occurrence there. Creepy.
That happened to me one time too. In Lansing, there's this fish ladder, Lansing, Michigan. It's like the capital city. It's right in the center of the state. There's the Grand River, and there's a fish ladder. Okay, so there's like falls that they put in, and then there's this fish ladder that goes up around and allows the fish to like go beyond the falls, just to make it easier for them to spawn. And if you go in the river, then you'll basically get, if you're dead and your body's just in the river, you'll get caught in those falls and you'll just be bobbing around. And that's what happens. Bodies will get caught there. And this dude was, just floating. And it took a while for the cops to get there and, saw the whole thing. It was wild. So this is a pedestrian crossing under the street in Portland. Look at how disgusting this is.
This is hideous. I remember when Portland was really getting renovated.
Mm-hmm.
What was it, like the 90s, 2000s? Anyway, I remember it was a while ago. I remember hearing what a nice city Portland was. And it's just deteriorates so quick.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, they had the failed experiment of legalizing drugs for a little bit that they ran away from.
Yep. Yeah,
But
2 years with
Behind me
decriminalized
is
drugs. Look at this.
Man's body that's been here for several hours.
Dude was just in full rigor right there, and people were walking by, didn't care. Somebody just set a truck on fire.
Tara, this truck may explode. Back off.
Yeah.
We informed all the other homeless. Yeah. Ah, man. Jesus. Stop. Seriously.
Oh.
That's smart.
Did he hit his hand?
Yeah, he did, yeah.
If you want to give us your water, we can take out your water. Burn your fucking house down. Burn it the fuck down. Justice. Burn it the fuck down.
Oh my God. You might be taking fentanyl laced with xylazine, which is trank. Just saying, this is the worst I've ever seen.
There's obviously a lot of homeless in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a sense, yes.
Nothing that even resembles this
I've got
anywhere.
crisis, but I'm on medication.
I've seen some things in Philly. I've seen some videos in Philly that touch where this is, but
yeah.
Those, not
Kensington.
Is that where it is? Okay, yeah. But New York, I mean, unless there are spots, I'm not purporting to have been around every single block of New York City, but never seen anything that is in the universe of this. And obviously, homelessness is a big topic around Manhattan. It's something that exists. You go there, you go to train stations, they're all hanging out. They're everywhere. And one thing that my mom used to say, as you know, they grew up in the city, is that it all exploded when they started doing away with the mental institutions. I forget if this is the 60s or the 70s, but around then, they said that once they started closing them down, the homelessness went from occasional like random small groups of people who literally just can't hold a job and maybe your town drunk to mentally ill people, and a lot of them, and that explodes. So now you got that's on the one end, right? Where again, it's there's no place for the mentally ill, so they wind up just living on the streets. Then you got the other end, which what you were talking about, where these all represent a dollar figure to these NGOs that are helping, and so they don't want to fix the problem, and that becomes kind of a version of, it's called perverse incentive, where people will call it the Cobra effect, and this is referencing an idea where the British government was concerned about venomous cobras in Delhi, and they offered a bounty on every dead cobra, which was successful at first, right? They threw money at it. People started killing cobras, and it wound up being good. But what happened was, eventually, people realized, oh, you can make money off this. People start cobra breeding farms started popping up, started breeding and releasing cobras. People were breeding and then just killing them and bringing them in. And then by the time it was done, there were more than when they started. So it's hard to say, because you would think, let's throw some money at this and get done with it. But then you have these NGOs, and it's interesting what you're saying, where they're handing them literally glass pipes and ways to smoke crack and meth and these things. That's horrible. I like what your buddy is doing with offering help and trying to get them clean. And I think there's the majority of them, again, they need a place to go. We need to bring mental institutions open again under real circumstances, not like back in the day when you could just be like, your sister gets pregnant and you throw her in a freaking mental institution, right? Like, what was that? One of the Kennedy sisters, right? But
I think it was Ethel, something like that. They actually,
I don't even know if I know the name if you said it, but
she was sad, so they gave her a lobotomy.
Right? Oh my god.
Yeah, but it was such a profound effect on her, like it completely debilitated her. And they were told by the doctor that it would like make her normal. They didn't understand that exactly what was going to go on, and so from that point forward, she had to live in an institution for the rest of her life. Yeah,
they had seen stuff like that's crazy, and I'm sure that was used as part of the whatever push led to getting rid of a lot of these mental institutions. But you bring those back, that'll some of those people would do really well there. You get a lot of them, as many as are willing to go for it clean, and then there's just going to be some people who they can't get it together, and they might just have regular homeless. And that's the case. Those can go to the regular homeless shelters. Because I have a friend, Mikey, lives in Portland. He was working at a homeless shelter for a while. I wonder, he might even still be working at a homeless shelter there. And he said it's just fights and craziness and all this nuttiness all the time. And people are screaming at each other all the time. And if you could get rid of those two factions first, to where you just have the town drunk who can't get his life together living at the homeless shelter, it would greatly change that situation. That's my opinion on what could be done to at least help quell the homeless problem.
I would agree with you. So people in the chat are saying it was Rose Kennedy. Ethel was RFK's mom. So yeah, you guys are correct. Okay. So here's the thing. I think you're right. And Kevin was a big fan of President Trump's executive order talking about bringing mental institutions back. One of the things that he's found is that a large percentage of the people who are homeless want to be homeless. It's not that they just don't have somewhere to go. A lot of them are bought into the lifestyle, either because they want to live an outlaw lifestyle or they're comfortable using drugs. They don't like people telling them what to do because they've been out on the streets for so long. And the other part of it is the people who want to get off the streets, the NGOs, Lisa, can you come get Muffin? The NGOs refuse to refer homeless people to faith-based organizations. So like the Salvation Army or like a private organization that is receiving money, like that is because they're not a 501c3, they're getting money from like private donors or something like that. Those organizations get completely shut out. So Kevin was saying you might have a place that has 300 beds available, but nobody will know about it because the lefties, the Marxists who are working at the NGOs refuse to tell the homeless people about it. And also, if they go and get clean and they go get help and a place to stay, they're not going to be there for these people to be able to grift off of any longer. The other aspect of it is that Kevin said that the vast majority of the people working there are troons. Okay, they are left-wing Marxist trans people, and they will give preferential.
Is that what troon
treatment.
means? I keep seeing this statement. Okay,
that's what troons mean. Pull up the screen. So these things together have created the phenomenon that he writes about in this article, the rise of conservatism among the homeless population, because many of these people, they ended up absolutely loving President Trump. Because number one, they saw what the rise of leftist progressivism had done to them, their community, and to the streets in general. Nobody's safe. Everything is filthy. Everybody is being given these, they call them suicide kits, the harm reduction kits, because they're just giving people a way to kill themselves quicker. But he said he goes to this place near the Willamette River in Portland, and he's interviewing this guy. He doesn't look like he would be a Trump supporter. He had been to prison. He's got tattoos all over his face. He's a drug user. And at a certain point, he's like, do you want to see my MAGA hat?
Oh, shit.
and he puts it on, and he's like, yeah, I want Trump to win. And it turns out like 70% of the homeless people were in favor of President Trump winning because they knew that he would change things, that he would take money out of this system because the money allows them to, you know, remain on the streets. It's very difficult if you're addicted to drugs and somebody is like, you know, I will continue to give you access to drugs and to give you access to drug paraphernalia. And, you know, I mean, it's, you know, but they won't give you a way to get off of those drugs. You know, I mean, a lot of those people are just going to be like, as horrible as it is, as awful as my life is, at the very least, I'm not getting sick, or I'm not, you know, maybe I've got scabs all over my body, but, you know, I'm not like waking up and feeling like, you know, I'm going to die. The other thing is that the drug dealers prey upon the homeless people. They charge the homeless people less for their fentanyl than they do if you're like a citizen, like a square. Okay. Like if you're some person coming down to this area of Portland to get drugs, they're going to charge you like probably 4 times more than they're going to charge the homeless people, because they know those people are always going to be there and they don't have a lot of money. So they just want to go ahead and keep them fed with the product. And he said, so, you know, all of these people were saying, you know, like, yeah, we need Trump. We need Trump because what these people have done to Portland has destroyed it. The decriminalization overnight, it went from, you know, people hiding their drug use to just standing in front of a building, you know, shooting fentanyl on the streets, smoking crack or smoking crystal on the streets, you know, people defecating and sleeping in front of businesses. You know, crime went way up. Kevin said something like, if you call 911 in Portland, you might wait like 4 hours, maybe longer, for somebody to respond. You might be on hold for up to an hour. Like there's no sense of urgency. The police just don't enforce things. And the homeless people know that if they get caught committing crimes, like they just let them go. Like they're like, you know, not even worried about it because they have basically, you know, stopped caring about stuff. And
there used to be a phenomena in around New York too, where homeless people would purposely commit crimes because they'd go to jail and they'd get meals and a place to sleep.
Yeah. So now there are people on the streets giving out peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, setting up soup lines. Like they keep everybody fed. They will give them blankets. They will give them tents. They will give them socks. They will give them shoes. They give them everything they need so that they can continue to stay sleeping on the streets here. Now, this story right here, brother and sister were at a homeless shelter because they were trying to get their lives together and they misgendered someone. So a guy who was, you know, identified as a woman steals something from somebody else, and the brother and sister, they say, "Sir, stop, sir." But because they called this man a sir rather than identifying him as a woman, they got kicked out of the shelter by the transgender staff. 95% of the shelter staff are non-binary and or transgender, and they give preferential treatment to transgender clients. Now, he posted these videos exposing this, and he started getting angry messages from transgender identifying people in Portland, basically saying that, you know, they're going to come after him. Take a look.
I love Trump. Like, he doesn't deal with anybody's bullshit. He doesn't care.
And what's interesting by you saying this is by far you two are the largest recipients of progressive policies, street homeless, addiction issues, yet you also are conservative, which to some they would consider that unusual.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that part of the reasons why you have those stronger beliefs is because you've been in the middle of you're being affected by these progressive policies and how this has negatively affected you. Is that somewhat accurate?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Such as what you just said is you guys, many other people are prioritized over you for reasons we don't always agree with, such as skin color, identity, things like that, rather than need, stage of change.
Here is where he says 95% of the staff are non-binary.
What percentage of the staff do you think are, you know, non-binary, transgender?
Fuck, it's like 100.
95%?
90% of the staff are
95, yeah.
interesting.
Who isn't?
Crystal.
Yeah.
So you know of one that's
Then I can say for a fact, is he?
does not identify as transgender or non-binary or any of that.
Yeah.
Must be a challenging environment to sleep in.
Oh, it's a game to them.
That'd be funny if they said Mikey.
Fucking life is a game to them.
So it does seem counterintuitive, but you have a lot of veterans that are on the street. You've got all these people who have been ultimately affected by the radical progressive policies that have destroyed Portland, that people who have seen the changes that the city has undergone in the last several decades.
Yeah.
And Kevin also said on the show that he would routinely, because he used to work in the in the outreach industry. He worked in social services, and he would be penalized for attempting to help the homeless people, to help them get to treatment, or if he knew that Salvation Army had beds available and he told somebody that, then they would be like, that's a problem. You can't do that. You just sent money out the door. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
that exposes it right there.
Absolutely. So, it's not about helping people. None of this is about helping people. It's about controlling people and using people. And before I had Kevin on last night, I played some of that Yuri Bezmenov interview. That's it always comes to mind when I think about radical progressive policies, because, it feeds right into the idea of how do you demoralize a nation. And, you tear down the morals, you take away the values, you offer people degeneracy as the only option. And, at the beginning, people will do what feels good. But then pretty soon what feels good becomes what's necessary to not feel bad. And then, you might be high, you might be drunk, but you're miserable because you're trapped in that cycle. And if you can keep your wits about you and maintain a job and keep a house, you just might suffer in silence. But a lot of people end up, losing everything. And then at the same time, they're raising the prices of everything. They are empowering certain segments of society while openly discriminating against others. And they're telling you that you can't say anything about it. And then also in Portland, you have all of these Antifa people, who are openly fighting against anything other than their Marxist agenda. And the ultimate implementation of their Marxist agenda is to destroy society so that they can then take over and then build up whatever they believe is going to be their utopian society. But in order to get there, you have to go through that demoralization phase. You have to ultimately destroy everything that is good in order to imprint what you believe to be correct onto the minds of the people who you are now seeking to control.
Even if you show them gulag, they will not get it through their thick skull until the boot crashed their head. That
Till the boot crushed their balls. He said, till the boot crushed their balls.
Oh my God.
That's like my favorite part, dude. I love that.
So good. So good. Well, I'll tell you what, at very least from the people who are suffering point of view, I bet you it's less just they're conservative now. And probably a lot of them wanting Trump to win is the fact that what's been going on is just this ain't working. It's not working. At some point, you just got to start trying other things. And what Trump is doing in other arenas right now is probably, I'm not 100% on his homeless policies, but I'm sure they're very similar, is cutting off the constant aid, right? Living off the government tit, as they say. That's what's happening right now with EBT. We're getting a lot of funny videos out of it, so it's that's always a cool little silver lining. People are freaking out. They're not cutting it off right now. It's technically cut off because the government shut down, but also October 1st, new regulations did kick in where you have to work. One of them is that you have to work about 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
people are freaking out about that. A lot of the totals that people are getting have been lowered. People are freaking out about that. This is what you have to do. It sucks in the short term. There's a lot of people who have their whole lives built around just getting free money every month. I mean, shit, I don't blame them, but you have to rip that away, and it forces them to become self-efficient. And this is, again, it just feels like this mirrors exactly what you and your friend were breaking down about the homeless situation.
So pull up the screen. This is President Trump's executive order on homelessness, ending crime and disorder on American streets. You're absolutely right. If we're going to address this problem, because it is a multifaceted problem, we've got to take care of all of the issues that are affecting it, making it possible for people to exist in this state on the streets. The drugs are a huge aspect of that. Fentanyl from China, cocaine from South America. We've got to stop those things. And a huge aspect of this, President Trump said it himself, is that we've got to bring back mental institutions. Kevin said the same thing. Yeah. And so that will happen. But again, we've got to be able to have the time to build the infrastructure again. Like the hospitals that we used to use, a lot of them you find in like urban explorer videos now. Okay. I mean, like
there used to be an abandoned one in New Jersey. I forget the name of it, but we'd go there and then freak ourselves out and shit. But it was like, you can never reuse it.
There was one when I lived in Massachusetts for a while, and there was one in Massachusetts, an old abandoned mental hospital. It was in a movie with Robert Downey Jr. I don't remember what the name of it was called, but I remember it because of that. And we went to it, and, you know, we did some urban exploring, and, you know, this was in, gosh, like the late 90s. So it was a long, long time ago. But yeah, we've got to bring back mental institutions, and, you know, you've got to give people access to treatment. All right. So for the people who are not profoundly mentally ill, we may have to force them into treatment. Okay. Forced intensive inpatient treatment, 9 months, maybe a year. Okay. Because sometimes if you are profoundly addicted to drugs, that's how long it takes. But you have to get away from the drugs. You have to be removed from it. And then you also have to do the spiritual and mental healing. There is just staggering amount of damage that is done to a person's soul and to a person's psyche when they're living on the streets, when, you know, maybe they're committing crimes so they can continue to get their drugs. And, you know, women, you know, routinely getting raped on the streets every single night, like just terrible, terrible things happening. Not less than zero. That was Robert Downey Jr. when he was much younger. This would have been when he was a little bit older. This was in like the early 90s, I think. It was kind of like a psycho horror type of film. I'll look it up. But then we have to have like the mental hospitals, okay, where people can be committed, because some of these people are, you know, they are as sick as you can possibly get. People with like schizophrenia and just, you know, the types of disorders that are not going to allow them to exist in society, and we cannot allow them to live on the streets any longer. I mean, the fact that we have allowed, so, you know, I mean, the mental hospitals were closed under the guise that, you know, it was inhumane, but how In Dreams, thank you so much. In Dreams is the name of the film. Yep. But allowing people to live on the streets, to sleep outside, to, you know, to live under bridges or in tunnels under Las Vegas or in the sewers, you know, I mean, like, just like, think about the drain on the public health system from the people who are, you know, they have to end up going to the emergency room. I mean, just like it's Iron Man 2. You're killing me, big. It's not Iron Man 2.
Also Iron Man 2.
But yes, we have to commit people, and we have to commit them to treatment. And then while they're in treatment, we also give them access to trade schools and to education, so that they can come out and they can immediately join the job market. Now, during that time, while we have like that lag time, hopefully we are also reindustrializing America. I mean, that is happening at this moment. So, you know, in order to fix the decades of degradation that have been done to the United States of America, we have to take some time to build the systems and then the infrastructure back up. Like, I wish that we could just snap our fingers in a drop of a hat and just say, hey, here we go. Here's the solution. We got it right now. But it doesn't work that way.
Right. But the fact that there is a mind to do this stuff now is the perfect first step.
Right.
And also, too, is living now in 2025, it's a lot harder for a Nurse Ratched to go around being an evil human and lobotomizing people when you have a much more connected, there's more oversight. I'm sure most of the people would have connection to the outside world and they'd be able to report stuff, and or things would probably be CCT in a lot of these institutions. So the fact that they are closed because they were inhumane, some of them may have been inhumane. And I'm sure you almost have to be strong too with some of these people, because genuinely mentally ill people sometimes are violent, and I'm sure they deal with that. It probably breaks them down a little bit. But yeah, I love that there's a mind for that. And as far as construction goes, who better than DJT? I would love to see some progress by the end of his term on rebuilding some of these facilities and starting to get some help for them. Now, on that note, I found this is the old mental institution that we used to go hang out when I was in high school. I didn't do it a lot, but people would go there and you'd drink in there and stuff and get yourself freaked out. But apparently they tore it down in 2014. So I don't know what's there, but yeah, the Marlboro Mental Institution. Oh my gosh. This place was so scary, and we're pretty sure everyone in New Jersey, if you guys are from the area, I'm sure would have heard that it's haunted. I'm convinced it's haunted, man. But this is bringing back memories right now. But this place is just busted up, and yeah,
I would think it would be haunted. I mean, there's probably a lot of terrible things that happen there, and obviously, I mean, we need to have. I think we need to be giving everybody psychological profiles. I don't care what industry you live in. I think that no matter whatever industry you work in, I think everybody needs to be given psych profiles so that we can see what type of a person you are. Because if you're some type of sociopath, a high functioning sociopath, and you want to work in a mental institution so that you can like rape and abuse people, or you're the type of person who's not going to have empathy for the people that you're taking care of. It's, you're just punching the clock. I don't think you need to work there. Okay. Well, here, I'm going to tell you a story about an awful situation with an immigrant working in a group home. But first, let's take a look at this. So, ending the endemic vagrancy, disorderly behavior, sudden confrontations, and violent attacks. All these things make our cities unsafe. The number of individuals living on the streets in the U.S. in a single night during the last year of the previous administration was 274,224. Now, that's as many as they can estimate. But like I said, there's a huge amount of homeless people that are living in these Democrat-run cities. And I would imagine there's probably a lot of them that have avoided being cataloged. But the overwhelming majority of those people are addicted to drugs, have a mental health condition, or both. Nearly 2/3 of homeless individuals report having regularly used hard drugs like meth, cocaine, or opioids. An equally large share of homeless individuals reported suffering from mental health conditions. The federal government and the states have spent tens of billions of dollars on failed programs that address homelessness, but not its root causes, leaving other citizens vulnerable to public safety threats. So, I mean, when this came out, a lot of people were like, where's the money going to come from? We're just going to spend more money. Okay, well, guess what? There's already a shit ton of money that is earmarked for these programs, but it's being spent in the wrong way. Okay. Doesn't mean that we need to spend everything that's already earmarked, but the money that's there has got to be redirected into the proper program so that we can address it at the root cause. And then, of course, we've got to start enforcing the laws, all of that. So enforce prohibitions on open illicit drug use, bans on camping and loitering, prohibitions on urban squatting. There's plenty of places around the United States where if you're a squatter, you can literally steal somebody's home and just destroy it in that time.
New York is a place like that. I worked with this dude, Mike, who out in Long Island, and he was renting his basement out. And this guy, for years, they just stopped paying rent, told them F you, and he was not able to get them out. It was going on 3 years by the last time I worked with him. 3 years.
Wow, that's insane. That's totally insane.
It's nuts. Absolutely nuts, man. Yeah, New York
Yeah.
is really bad for that. New Jersey, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if many people have dealt with it, but at the time, it was something that fascinated me. I remember looking into it. And I believe the consensus was that if someone's doing that in New Jersey, you just call the cops and they come there and be like, get the fuck out right now. So I don't know.
They
if
don't
it's
play
like
in New
that.
Jersey.
Yeah, but I think New Jersey is much different.
So anyways, HHS is supposed to spearhead coming up with a plan on this, but obviously RFK, I think, is preoccupied with stuff related to, vaccines and MAHA. And so this is why I was saying, like, people should go tag President Trump and Caroline Leavitt and suggest that Kevin Dahlgren be made the homelessness czar. This is a problem that is big enough. We need someone with resources to address it at the federal level so that we can roll it out and force it on all 50 states. And primarily it is a problem in Democrat-run cities. And that's because they want all those federal dollars. And then plus, you have people that become addicted to government services, and that means more federal dollars. And then the people who are not addicted to government services, they stop complaining because they get targeted by the radical left in these areas, and they kind of capitulate. And, hopefully also that means that we will also see a good number of those people move away from radical left policies and towards something else. Okay, so the story that I wanted to tell you, I want to say this was in Arizona. There was a 51-year-old man who was profoundly disabled. He had the mental capacity of like a 4-year-old child, and he lived, both of his parents were passed away. His sister was alive, but he was mandated to live in a state licensed care facility. It was just a group home. And there's 4 African immigrants working there that are the caretakers. And there's this guy and a couple of other guys that are there. And the guy who was clocked into work, he was supposed to take William to the doctor's office in the morning. Rather than taking William to the doctor's office, he took William with him to the liquor store. And he went and bought a pint of liquor. He drank that pint, and then he took William with him to go buy another pint. And then he took William into the car, and then he went shopping, and he left William in the car in the Arizona heat, 100 plus degrees inside the car. The guy has the mindset of a kid. He, may not have even known how much danger he was in, probably knew that he was in distress, but didn't know what to do. And William ended up dying during the time that this guy was just effing around getting drunk. Now, at some point, he realized that William was not alive, called somebody else at the facility, and was, having trouble speaking because of how drunk he was. And they were like, I can't understand you. I don't know what you're talking about. Right around 4:00, he ends up showing back up at the care home. He goes inside, leaves William's dead body in the car. And he's like, William's in the car. He needs you to tell somebody else. William's in the car. We need you to get him out. So then the guy goes out there and he's like, oh my God, this guy's dead. And he's like, hey, get out here. Get out here. They carry William inside and they try to do CPR, but then they recognize that there's nothing they can do. And so the police come, and the guy who essentially killed William, he gives this song and dance. He says, this other guy drove William to the doctor. I just got here and clocked in, and he came in and said William's dead.
Whoa.
And yeah, and just completely lied. So then they go and arrest the other guy, and they're like, tell us what happened. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I've been here all day. There's other clients here, and he's like, he took William to the doctor. He told me to go get him. And so then they go back and forth, and finally they figure out that the guy who was driving him around clocked in at 10 a.m. He lied to them about that. He's got alcohol in his breath. He does a breathalyzer. The legal limit is 0.08. He's at 0.267. Okay. Still going up. He couldn't tell them how much he drank. And he had no sense of responsibility that William's death was his fault. And his story kept changing. And then, they get him to the jail, and they finally get him to admit that, he was just driving around drinking with William and didn't even take him to his doctor's appointment. Ultimately, the cause of death was said to be a hardening of the arteries, but they suspect that the treatment William received likely contributed to his death on that particular day.
Wow.
And so this guy was charged with like elder abuse and abuse of a person with like a mental disorder or something like that. And, even though I think that he probably should have been charged with murder, manslaughter, maybe, or maybe second degree murder. But that right there is an excellent example of people coming to our country and just punching the clock. Okay. Like that guy did not care about the people that he was serving. And he kept saying to the police, like, I'm not a bad guy. And he's like, I always took care of William. I made sure he had food. Like that was the only thing that his care required. Like not even considering the fact that you're leaving an adult with the mental capacity of a 4-year-old, somebody who likes to play with Legos and Star Wars toys. Okay. You're leaving him in the car in the hot Arizona sun while you go get booze. Like, no, sir. No, sir.
Yeah, that is, it's just indicative of different cultures. It's not a knock on other countries, but there are some cultures abroad that aren't compatible with the United States of America. And instead, that's why I think I like your idea of psych evaluations. Also, too, it's funny. I get some pushback. There was talk about psych evaluations for a gun purchase, and I don't know that I did feel like that wasn't such a bad idea, and I got a lot of pushback from that. But I feel like the threshold is where it would be. I think you'd have to be really crazy to be denied, right? Because the Second Amendment should not be infringed. But if people are doing psych evals and they're completely off the reservation, that guy should. There's a whole litany of things that person should be restricted from, in my personal opinion. And then also, they should be mandatory go to one of these facilities when they open, if they're way up there, again, because no one knows anymore. And the people who are like this aren't getting the help they need. They're winding up homeless. And then we're having these absolute crazy homeless communities that are marred by this.
So I can understand why people would be upset that you would suggest.
I know, I knew you were going to, but I would love to hear it though. Yeah.
So I understand your rationale. However, I do feel that the plain language of the Second Amendment shall not be infringed, is meant to be taken literally. Now, what I would prefer to see is that people who score as like narcissistic psychopaths they are committed automatically. They are not allowed to remain in civil society. And then it wouldn't be a problem because those people would be, institutionalized. Now, the problem may be that in our modern world, there are far more people who will score rather high on that spectrum than perhaps in years past. And maybe we don't have the facilities to accommodate that. But
right, yeah, we need mental skyscrapers.
Yeah, I think that if somebody if somebody is like, yeah, I'm buying this gun because I plan to kill people, I feel like there's an argument to be made that maybe that person, should, there should be something considered there. But I think that it's a better idea for every single person in the United States to own and carry a gun at all times, so that, if there is somebody who appears to be like they're about to start shooting people, then, 6 people can draw on them all at the same time and be like, hold on, Tex, what are you doing there? But here's the thing.
Without a doubt. Yeah.
We gotta have adequate gun safety training and marksmanship training. Like, what is it? The Swiss? I think the Swiss, like as soon as you can like walk, they're handing you a rifle and you've got to learn how to use a gun. Like all the men in society basically are taught to shoot from a very young age. Like, people are undisciplined here in the United States. So, I could see like people who are not particularly careful, just like, shooting all over there, or maybe they got a 5.7 thinking that they're tough. And then, they shoot somebody and it just goes right through them and it hits a kid on the other side or something.
Do without a doubt. And here is this is a perfect example why I understand why people are against it. And I agree with this. Where Namster's saying most nice psychiatrists are raging liberals. This is true. And I really think conservatives are mentally ill. Absolutely not. So definitely it would be, it could be very much used, right, and weaponized. But I'm talking about like if one of them did an evaluation on me and it was like, he's mentally ill, that right winger, I'm sure there's a higher court that I could appeal to and be like, dude, I'm obviously not mentally ill. Well, this person's crazy. Like there should be checks and balances for these certain things. Like if you get, like I'm talking about dudes who's like smearing his shit on the wall in Burger King. You know, like if there's a way to determine someone like that, I think maybe, or some of these, the person who shot up that church not too long ago. Was
Which one?
I know.
There's been a couple of them recently.
September, or the end of August, and that dude's crazy. And somehow, again, I don't know what you can do there. But anyway, that was my thinking on that. But I understand, and I've never had anyone agree with me on it. So everyone in the chat, don't feel
everybody
bad.
pushes back. I keep
literally. I don't
keep
think one
presenting it.
person's
Nobody thinks it's a good idea. I don't know what the deal is.
I don't know, man. If someone's batshit crazy, maybe some way to get them away from weapons might be a good idea. But I don't know how to do it though.
So naturally, Nikki says that in Tennessee, they are now doing mandatory gun education starting in kindergarten. I think that's a great idea.
That's great.
Okay.
That's awesome.
You know, educate the population, get them familiar with firearm safety, make sure that they know how to use a gun so that they understand the importance of owning a gun. It's not about being a tough guy. It's not about, getting ready to blow somebody's head off. It's about protecting yourself, and it's about protecting our country. Yeah. Okay. And protecting ourselves as a society from an overbearing government. That's ultimately what it was put there for. Now, when I'm talking about psych evals for people to determine, are they crazy or not? I'm not talking about lefty psychiatrists and psychologists performing those psych evaluations. There are tests that you can take based upon your answers that will score on a spectrum to determine where you might fall. Okay. And I think that there are just certain personality types that are not suited to certain types of work. Okay. Like if you are likely to become a serial killer, and the first thing that you want to do is get a job at a animal sanctuary or at the Humane Society, because you're going to have an opportunity to string up some dogs or something like that. And then, your plan is to move on from there to get a job as a care worker at a state-run home. Obviously, there are indicators to suggest that you are going to do bad things. And people might say, oh, that's pre-crime, but you can ask questions like, hey, have you ever killed an animal? Have you ever thought that it would be awesome to hold a woman down and rape her as you perform brutal acts of violence upon her? I mean, those types of things are what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's a interesting debate, right? Because it's one that obviously will never fully ever rest.
Hold on, Freya. I'm not talking about the fucking Second Amendment, you moron. What? Calm yourself down, dude. Brad said the Second Amendment. I was talking about every single person getting jobs. You got to go back into the fucking show. All right. Yeah. I'm not talking about the Second Amendment. Brad talked about the Second Amendment, and I was making fun of him earlier. Jeez, Pete.
Freya's very passionate. I love the passion for Second Amendment.
I'm with you, Freya. Yeah. Dude, I said it. I said, no, Brad, that's a bad idea. God.
And I just meant the extreme, by the way. I don't mean like, hey, this guy seems a little off. Nothing ever again. I meant like batshit crazy people. But I understand even the pushback on that. I do.
So yes, let me just say it again. If anybody comes in and they don't know what we're talking about, no, I'm not saying that people who are buying guns should be getting psychological tests. I said that for people getting jobs, I think that in general, people should be given a psychological test to determine what type of person they are, because there are certain personalities which are incompatible with certain jobs, like people getting a job at a care treatment home or people getting a job at a residential care facility. It goes hand in hand with the story that I told about the person who was killed by an immigrant who was just clocking in. So yes, not talking about the Second Amendment, dude.
Well, on that note, let us tell you about our sponsors. Gun safety nuts. No, we actually have some really good sponsors today.
Before skincare went synthetic, people used something simple, something real, tallow. Grass-fed and finished beef tallow is packed with vitamins A, D, E, and K. Nutrients your skin actually knows what to do with. It locks in moisture, restores elasticity, and defends against winter dryness. No water, no preservatives, and no BS. Unlike plant oils or chemical creams, tallow mimics your skin's own structure. Elbows, hands, knees, post-shave, anywhere your skin's crying for real moisture. Perfect for gifting or keeping your own skin soft when the cold hits. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off. Ancient Care, modern truth.
Self-disclosure.
Is your wealth ready for Trump's next wave? Gold loves a Trump headline and is soaring. From the day he first took office, gold prices have climbed, gaining nearly $400 per ounce since his second term began. Why? Because gold thrives in uncertainty. It's time-tested safe haven, immune to government meddling, a shield against inflation, and a proven way to protect your wealth when markets wobble. With Trump's second term heating up, will gold smash new records in 2025? Nobody knows how high it could go, but smart investors aren't waiting to find out. Take control today. You could even qualify up to 10% bonus and free silver. Discover an IRS-approved way to diversify your savings with gold and silver, tax and penalty-free. Get your free gold and silver kit delivered straight to your door and learn how to safeguard your future. Visit badlandsgold.com to claim your kit and start building a stronger portfolio today. That's badlandsgold.com.
Here on the sun-kissed shores of Cocoa Beach, where the ocean meets the horizon, the Great American Restoration Tour continues on November 6th through the 9th, 2025. Badlands Media gathers patriots like you, not just to talk, but to rebuild. From truth-telling panels to unbreakable bonds, we're restoring the soul of our nation, one conversation at a time. This is the heart of the Space Coast, where the rockets defy gravity and dreams touch the stars. Feel the thunder of innovation that powers America forward. Together, we're not just healing the past, we're blasting off into a brighter tomorrow, a future where truth prevails, families thrive, and America leads once more. Join us in Cocoa Beach. Get your seat or your virtual stream pass now at badlandsmedia.tv/events. Launch is imminent, and you don't want to miss this liftoff.
The Scales Freedom Collection is where the open ocean meets the red, white, and blue seas we call home. Inspired by salt air, tight lines, and the rhythm of the tide and waves, this collection channels the spirit of freedom through the lens of the waterman's lifestyle. From long-sleeve performance shirts built for the elements to butter-soft tees and hats adorned with bold ocean-inspired Americana prints, every piece is designed to keep you cool, protected, and connected to the water that sets us free. From weed lines to tree lines, we love our freedom. So shop now at badlandsmedia.tv/scales and enter the promo code Badlands at checkout for 20% off your next purchase.
Very cool. Very cool. Some new sponsor there. Lumpy and Gingy. So I was just saying, he had said that, police officers, firefighters, military, they all get psych tested. And that's the type of thing that I'm talking about. I mean, I understand doing those things. I mean, let's be honest. You want a soldier, you want a type of person who's going to be a soldier, right? I mean, I would imagine that you want to make sure that somebody is going to be there for the right reasons, that they're not just going to join up so that they can go massacre people. Okay. Nobody wants a war crime on their hands. All right. But you do need to know that you have a person who's, if they need to, they're going to pull the trigger because, they have a sense of self-preservation and they want to keep their buddies safe as well. And they want to win. Police. Okay. You want somebody who's going to ultimately be enforcing the law, acting as a peacekeeper, not becoming a police officer so that they can brutalize the public. Okay. Firefighters, they do that because unfortunately there have been a lot of arsonists who get jobs as firefighters because they just love seeing things burn. Okay. So, I mean, on more than one occasion that's happened. I was suggesting we need to do this for teachers. Okay. Like, I mean, like how many pedo teachers, Brad, have we talked about in the last 6 months? Like, dude, why are they not giving these people psych tests? How do we keep having this happen?
I don't know what's going on in modern schools, but there certainly was not going on even amongst the kids in my school. Yeah. these kids, every time. And we'll talk about it even off air. I mean, I would say literally over the last couple of years, 50 accounts of teachers molesting children.
Yeah, it's like every couple of days. I mean, like I'm looking on the news and I'm like, oh, look, another 27-year-old woman who's having sexual relations with a 12 to 14-year-old boy. Like, what is going on? Like, and most of them are married too. Like, they've got a relationship. They might have kids. Like, how does this happen?
I don't know, man. I was like discovering Metallica when I was 13. I was still way beyond the discovering women, although, well, we discover women, of course, but like I never thought I'd have a shot with any of them at that age. And these kids, it's wild. It's a hypersexualized civilization we live in right now. Sex is everywhere. Sex and violence is everywhere on the TV. I say if you went back to even just the 80s and you looked at what was regular TV programming and you just changed it for a day with what's just regular network TV programming now, a lot of, especially the older generations, would be out of their minds angry with what they were, what they can get away with.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that we can use this argument across like every segment of the economy, right? I mean, like we can look at teachers. Clearly, you've got pedophiles who get jobs as teachers. You look at firefighters, you got arsonists who get jobs as firefighters. You've got psychopaths who just want to beat people. They get jobs as cops. You've got you've got people who are narcissists and they're on power trips, and so they get a job at CPS so they can take your kids away. Or maybe because they're part of a trafficking organization. You know, the problem is that like the higher functioning narcissists are the people who tend to get drawn to these careers where they can victimize certain people. We've talked about this before. CEOs and like upper level management, there is like an overwhelming number of people who are like total psychopaths who work in those positions. Like, and the reason is because as a CEO, you have to make ruthless, cutthroat decisions. Okay, like what's best for the company? Do I fire 20,000 people so that I can, keep the company open? Okay, well, that's the only choice that I have to make. And so I'm going to do it and I'm not going to care about it. Like, but I'm going to make as much money as possible while I do it. There are so many different areas of society where this is a major problem. And, I think that the sickest people should probably be working in positions as far away, as far removed from like general society as possible. And we need to do things. We need to teach things that will push people further away from that. Okay. Like, we've completely lost our connection to God mostly throughout society. We have stopped teaching civics. We are, the teachers are teaching people to not be patriotic, to hate their country, to hate themselves, to hate other races. And rather than looking at ourselves as Americans, they have taught these kids to hyper individualize and identify with these niche groups. And that's why you got kids taking shits in litter boxes in the back of the classroom. Like, I don't know if that's happening anymore, but I know it's happened on more than one occasion, like it's real.
You just get all of them in a large auditorium, just bring in POTUS and play.
Listen, you motherfuckers.
Bathrooms only. No.
Yeah. And church. Okay. And church is not immune to this either. Like it doesn't matter what denomination you are. You Jew, Muslim, Christian, all the Christian denominations, Catholicism. You got people who want to sexually abuse and victimize who get into these positions. And, and I have a big problem with like, the big tent preachers like Kenneth Copeland and, even Joel Osteen, like the people who are running like the multi-million-dollar huge like mega churches, and they're constantly getting as much money as possible. And, you know, really the money is to prop up their lifestyle and the brand. Okay. Like I would so much rather go to like a small little ass church where like nobody's got like a threadbare pair of pants to their name. All right. You know, people throw money in the collection pot just so you can keep the roof on the place. That's my kind of place.
Yeah. Even if some of those places, even if they did start with good intentions, they do seem to become that. Because then you get that, once you get that lifestyle, it's like you just chase it for the rest of your life. And it's unfortunate. At least Kenneth Copeland, I don't know anything about him, but he makes funny COVID songs, makes for funny COVID 19 videos.
Like Kenneth Copeland, Benny Hinn, you know, I mean, I grew up in the age of like,
though. He does seem like an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, I grew up in like the Jimmy Swaggart age, okay, with like, you know, the cable preachers. Like my grandma would be watching them when I would come over on Sundays. And, you know, I mean, and she would order things off of QVC and like, you know, the late night infomercials at night. And she would constantly be sending money to the church. And, you know, I mean, like every day they're having a telethon. And I mean, like, and then you look at the lifestyles of these people and they're multimillionaires.
Oh yeah.
They're
filthy rich.
No.
Yeah.
No,
My parents talked very much against them to us when we were growing up, and we just went to regular mass, and the best of I know knowledge, the priests at St. Anne's Church were totally normal and had a pretty normal Christian upbringing, but there's crazies all over the place, and the devil's trying to infiltrate everything all the time. And church is one of them. No one knows the Bible better than Lucifer. Not any of us anyway, obviously. So it's something to keep in mind. But
so anyways,
Freya, when you're having fun. Yeah.
And Freya, this is not to black pill. Okay. We're not black pilling. All right. We're simply pointing out all of the things that still need to be addressed in society. And tonight we were, you know, looking at a couple of like social services issues, and that extends out into these other things. You know, I don't need a mega church for my connection to God. Okay. You know, like, you know, my connection to God is personal. I think that's what everybody should have. And I think that we have lost that as a society, and it needs to be brought back. You know, people are afraid to talk about God. One thing, you know, that, you know, Kevin was not afraid to talk about, you know, his belief, his connection to Christ while he was on the show. And I thought that was so awesome because he lives in Portland. He lives in like the most radical leftist place in the country. And yet he still has relationships with people who are radical leftists, you know, I mean, like, because he has to. I mean, like, he's got friends and they may not agree. But I mean, I really commended him on that because I don't have any people like that in my life. Like all of the leftists that I meet are just wackadoodles, you know, and they're not interested in being my friend. I would have no problem being friends with people and having conversations with them. But so many of those people nowadays, they don't want that, because their identity is tied up in that ideology. And anyways, that's just another thing we got to address. I will go on record and say that I think all of these things are being addressed. It just takes time.
1,000,000%, man.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of people out there who, whether they're religious or not, hopefully would push them along that path to either go freaking read the Gospel of Matthew, or at very least the Sermon on the Mount, and really take in what Jesus is saying. And there's other passages or other, you know, chapters and stuff, instances of Jesus' teachings that you could read, but I feel like that one covers a whole lot, and it's probably not what's being sold to you the same as what's being sold to you as what Christianity is, and it's really good for the soul. But
amen. Amen.
Oh, we are cutting into DPH.
Okay.
We do have some super chats here. DPH says, my favorite dynamic duo, Brent and Zach. I went off this timeline. Yikes. Yeah, timelines. Wow. I don't know. I'm kind of enjoying the chaos of late.
Yeah. I'm having a good time.
and Dick Sept 17 says, great show, Brent and Zach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Angie K says, Trump's plan was to take government land and return it to the states, make it for housing and mental hospitals for the insane and addicted people to get help. Well, that'd be cool. That's actually a pretty cool idea. I know he's talking about there's been inklings about returning some of the government land up here in Alaska to the state, not necessarily just for that, but just in general. I think they should do it. I think a lot of the government has land grabbed a lot of places. And NGK also said, notice all these places are where they have legalized drug use.
Yep.
Yeah, or at least
decriminalized. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even if they haven't decriminalized, they just stopped enforcing. Yeah. But we also had a couple of gifted subscriptions. For some reason, it didn't stick around. I thought that. Yeah. So anyway, thank you to whoever gifted the subscriptions. Really do appreciate it. And isn't there like a huge mining operation that's about to go in Alaska, Brad?
There's a couple things. Yeah, there's a mining operation that's opening up. There's also talk about making a massive highway. I think that's kind of around the same thing up to that area, which will help at least going down to Anchorage, where there's a big port going out. Alaska has so many raw resources, and there's no reason why we shouldn't be using them. I also feel like Alaska would do really good if they started getting oil refinery stations here, because a lot of times gas is really high here, and it's crazy because most oil comes from here. But they have to send it all the way out to get refined into gas, and then barge it all the way back up.
Well,
so
it's an EPA problem.
Yeah, so if you could just refine it into gas here, you could send it out right as gas for a lot of it, and we would do better. And it would also then cost less money and gas for the people bringing stuff out of Alaska all around. It would help a lot of industries. So that's the thought. If anyone could start that going off. But yeah, we
President
also
Trump, we need refinery.
Yes, we need a refinery in Southeast Alaska. And Filter Dog 1 also said good discussion tonight.
Glad you enjoyed it. One final rant from ZBM. Yep, hated of God and country as opposed to love of God and country. My last pastor had tons of car troubles and wore thrift store clothes. That's my favorite kind. Great guy, best pastor I've ever had. Love the show, guys. Love it. Love that you guys were here. All right, you guys, go on over to DPH. Have a great night, and thanks for hanging out with us. Hope you had fun.
Boom. We'll talk to you.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.